you're already drinking could become a hair supporting tonic with just one simple addition. No expensive treatments, no complicated routines, just smart nutrition working from the inside out. Stay with me because this is about addressing the root cause of hair fall, not chasing symptoms. When people think about hair growth, they usually focus on oils, shampoos, or external treatments, but hair follicles are living structures that depend heavily on blood flow. Without proper circulation, even the best nutrients cannot reach the follicle efficiently. This is where adding cloves to black tea becomes surprisingly powerful. Cloves contain a bioactive compound called eugenol, which is known to support healthy blood circulation. When circulation improves, oxygen and nutrients are delivered more effectively to the scalp, creating an internal environment where hair follicles can function optimally instead of remaining dormant or weak. Here's something important to understand. Hair follicles are some of the most metabolically active cells in the body. That means they require a constant and reliable supply of nutrients. If blood flow is compromised, the body prioritizes vital organs like the brain and heart, and hair growth becomes secondary. This is why stress, inflammation, and poor circulation often show up as hair thinning first. When you add crushed cloves to black tea, you are gently enhancing circulation at a systemic level, not forcing stimulation from the outside, but supporting the body from within. Black tea already contains polyphenols that help reduce oxidative stress. When combined with cloves, this effect becomes more targeted toward vascular support. Eugenol helps relax blood vessels slightly, allowing smoother blood flow. This is critical for the scalp, where tiny capillaries feed the hair follicles. Better blood flow means more amino acids, more minerals, and more oxygen reaching the root of the hair. When the root is nourished properly, hair strands grow stronger, thicker, and more resilient. Another overlooked factor is inflammation. Low-grade inflammation around hair follicles can silently restrict blood flow. You don't feel it, but the follicles do. Cloves have natural anti-inflammatory properties that help calm this environment. When inflammation decreases, circulation improves naturally. This is not about shocking the body into growing hair. It's about removing obstacles that prevent growth in the first place. Hair loss often slows down when the follicle environment becomes calmer and better supplied. There's also a neurological aspect here. The scalp has a dense network of nerves, and proper blood flow supports nerve signaling. Healthy nerve signaling helps regulate the hair growth cycle, keeping follicles longer in the growth phase instead of prematurely pushing them into the shedding phase. Supporting circulation through simple dietary strategies can subtly influence this cycle over time, which is why consistency matters far more than intensity. What makes this approach especially effective is its simplicity. You're not adding something artificial or extreme. You're enhancing something the body already recognizes. Black tea acts as a carrier and cloves act as the activator. When consumed regularly, this combination works quietly in the background, supporting vascular health day after day. Hair growth doesn't respond to quick fixes. It responds to steady improvements in internal conditions. Many people are surprised to learn that scalp massages and topical treatments often fail because they don't address systemic circulation. Blood flow starts from the inside. If circulation is weak overall, external stimulation can only do so much. Supporting circulation internally gives those follicles a real chance to recover and function as designed. This is why small changes can create noticeable results over time. You're not just drinking tea, you're sending a signal to your body that repair and nourishment are possible. When circulation improves, the follicles receive the message. Hair fall often slows first, and then growth gradually becomes more visible. The body responds when you remove the bottleneck, and improved blood flow is one of the most critical bottlenecks in hair health. One of the most misunderstood aspects of hair loss is the role of DHT. Many people think DHT is the enemy, but that's not entirely accurate. DHT is a normal hormone derived from testosterone, and it has important functions in the body. The problem starts when DHT becomes excessive at the scalp level or when hair follicles become overly sensitive to it. In that situation, DHT gradually shrinks the follicle, shortens the growth phase, and produces thinner, weaker hair with each cycle. What's critical to understand is that this process is strongly influenced by oxidative stress and inflammation, not just hormones alone. This is where black tea combined with cloves becomes relevant. Black tea contains powerful polyphenols that act as antioxidants. These compounds help neutralize free radicals that damage cells and disrupt normal hormone signaling. When oxidative stress is high, the enzyme that converts testosterone into DHT, called 5-alpha reductase, tends to become more active. By reducing oxidative stress, you are indirectly calming the activity of this enzyme, which can reduce the excessive DHT signaling around hair follicles without aggressively blocking hormones the body still needs. Cloves add another important layer to this effect. They are rich in eugenol and other phytochemicals that support cellular protection. When hair follicles are under constant oxidative stress, they become more vulnerable to DHT's shrinking effect. By lowering that stress, follicles become more resilient. This means the same amount of DHT has less damaging impact. The goal is not to eliminate DHT, but to make hair follicles less reactive to it, which is a far more sustainable approach. Another overlooked factor is insulin. High insulin levels can increase androgen activity, including DHT. Frequent sugar intake, refined carbohydrates, and constant snacking keep insulin elevated, which indirectly worsens hair loss in many people. Black tea has been shown to support better glucose handling, and cloves can help stabilize blood sugar responses. When insulin is better controlled, androgen signaling becomes more balanced, and this has a downstream effect on hair follicle health. There is also a strong connection between gut health and hormone balance. Poor digestion and gut inflammation can increase systemic inflammation, which amplifies DHT sensitivity at the scalp. Cloves support digestive function by enhancing stomach acid and reducing harmful microbial activity. Better digestion leads to better nutrient absorption and lower inflammatory signaling. When inflammation drops, the scalp environment becomes less hostile and follicles are no longer constantly pushed toward miniaturization. Stress plays a major role here as well. Chronic stress raises cortisol, and elevated cortisol can disrupt the balance between testosterone and DHT. Over time, this hormonal imbalance can accelerate hair thinning. The compounds found in cloves have mild calming effects on the nervous system, helping the body manage stress more efficiently. When cortisol levels are better regulated, hormonal conversion pathways become more stable, which indirectly supports healthier hair cycles. What makes this strategy particularly effective is that it works with the body instead of against it. Many conventional approaches attempt to force hormone suppression, which can lead to unwanted side effects. Supporting antioxidant status, reducing inflammation, improving insulin sensitivity, and calming stress responses creates an internal environment where DHT no longer dominates the conversation at the follicle level. Hair follicles respond not to one single factor, but to the overall message they receive from the body. Over time, this approach often leads to a noticeable change in hair shedding patterns. Excessive daily hair fall may slow first, followed by improved hair texture and thickness. These changes happen quietly and gradually because the body is adjusting at a foundational level. When oxidative stress is reduced and hormonal signaling is stabilized, hair follicles are given the space to function normally again, which is exactly what they were designed to do. One of the most overlooked reasons for persistent hair fall is not a lack of nutrients in the diet, but a failure to absorb them properly. You can eat the best foods, take the most expensive supplements, and still see thinning hair if those nutrients never make it into your bloodstream. Hair follicles are extremely sensitive to deficiencies in minerals like iron, zinc, magnesium, and trace elements, and these deficiencies often begin in the digestive system, not on the scalp. Hair growth depends heavily on protein synthesis and cell division, and both of these processes require minerals as cofactors. Zinc plays a direct role in keratin production, iron delivers oxygen to the hair root, and magnesium supports enzymatic reactions involved in growth. When stomach acid is low, which is very common due to stress, aging, or frequent snacking, these minerals are poorly absorbed. The body may appear nourished on paper, but at the cellular level, hair follicles are essentially underfed. Cloves play a unique role here because they stimulate digestive efficiency. One of their key actions is supporting healthy stomach acid levels. Adequate stomach acid is essential for breaking down protein and releasing minerals from food so they can be absorbed in the intestines. When cloves are added to black tea in small amounts, they gently activate digestive secretions without irritating the gut. This creates a more favorable environment for nutrient absorption throughout the day. Black tea itself contributes to this process in a strategic way. While excessive tea consumption can interfere with mineral absorption, moderate intake, especially when paired with digestive supporting compounds like those in cloves, can actually enhance overall digestive function. The polyphenols in black tea help reduce oxidative stress in the gut lining. A healthier gut lining absorbs nutrients more efficiently and sends clearer signals to the rest of the body, including hair follicles. There is also a connection between gut microbes and mineral uptake. An imbalanced gut microbiome can block absorption and increase inflammation, diverting nutrients away from non-essential tissues like hair. Cloves have mild antimicrobial properties that help keep harmful microbes in check without disrupting beneficial bacteria. This balance allows the gut to function more efficiently, ensuring that minerals reach the bloodstream instead of being lost or wasted. Another critical factor is bile flow. Minerals such as zinc and iron are better absorbed when bile production and flow are adequate. Cloves support liver and gallbladder function, which indirectly improves bile release. When bile flow is sluggish, fat, soluble nutrients, and certain minerals are poorly absorbed. Improving this process helps ensure that hair follicles receive the raw materials they need to build strong hair shafts instead of producing brittle, thin strands. What many people don't realize is that the body always prioritizes survival over appearance. When minerals are limited, they are directed toward vital organs first. Hair, skin, and nails are the last to receive nutrients. By improving absorption rather than simply increasing intake, you raise the overall nutrient availability in the body. Once basic needs are met, excess nutrients can finally be allocated to hair growth and maintenance. This is why people sometimes notice reduced hair shedding before they notice new growth. The follicles are no longer under mineral stress. The growth cycle begins to normalize and hair strands become more resilient, breakage decreases, and the hair that does grow has better structure and strength. The effectiveness of this approach lies in its subtlety. Instead of forcing the body with high-dose supplements, you're improving the body's ability to use what it already has access to. Over time, this creates a more stable internal environment where hair follicles are consistently nourished. When absorption improves, deficiencies quietly correct themselves, and hair responds naturally without extreme interventions or aggressive treatments. One of the most underestimated drivers of hair fall is chronic stress and the hormonal chain reaction it creates inside the body. Hair follicles are extremely sensitive to stress signals, especially cortisol. When cortisol stays elevated for long periods, the body shifts into a survival mode. In that state, growth, repair, and regeneration are no longer priorities. Hair follicles receive the message very clearly: conserve energy, slow down, and in many cases, shut down growth prematurely. Cortisol directly interferes with the hair growth cycle. It shortens the anagen, or growth phase, and pushes hair follicles into the telogen, or resting phase, much earlier than they should be. This is why people often notice excessive shedding weeks or months after a stressful period. The trigger may be emotional stress, poor sleep, overtraining, blood sugar swings, or even chronic inflammation. The body doesn't differentiate well between these stressors. It responds with the same hormonal output. Black tea, when used strategically and not excessively, can support nervous system balance due to its polyphenol content. These compounds help reduce oxidative stress in the brain and adrenal glands. Oxidative stress amplifies cortisol signaling, making stress feel more intense and prolonged. By lowering this internal noise, the body becomes more efficient at shutting off the stress response once the threat is gone. This alone can reduce the constant hormonal pressure placed on hair follicles. Cloves add an important calming dimension to this effect. They contain compounds that support parasympathetic nervous system activity, which is responsible for rest, digestion, and repair. When this system is underactive, the body remains stuck in a fight or flight state. Hair growth simply does not occur in that environment. By gently nudging the body toward a more relaxed physiological state, cloves help rebalance the stress response without sedation or stimulation. Another key connection is blood sugar. Stress and unstable blood sugar go hand in hand. Rapid spikes and crashes in glucose increase cortisol output, even if you don't feel anxious. This hidden stress quietly disrupts hair growth. Black tea and cloves together can help stabilize post-meal blood sugar responses, reducing the need for cortisol to intervene. When blood sugar becomes more stable, the adrenal glands get a break, and hair follicles are no longer exposed to constant stress hormones. Sleep quality is also deeply affected by stress hormones. Poor sleep increases cortisol the next day, creating a vicious cycle. Hair growth hormones such as growth hormone and melatonin are released primarily during deep sleep. If sleep is shallow or interrupted, these hormones drop and hair repair slows dramatically. Supporting the nervous system during the day improves sleep architecture at night, indirectly restoring the hormonal signals required for healthy hair cycling. Stress also tightens muscles, including those around the scalp and neck. This tension can restrict blood flow to the scalp, compounding the problem. When the nervous system relaxes, muscle tension decreases, circulation improves, and the scalp environment becomes more favorable for hair growth. This is a subtle but meaningful shift that occurs when stress signaling is reduced consistently over time. What's important to recognize is that the body is always listening to internal signals. If those signals constantly communicate danger or urgency, hair growth becomes expendable. When signals shift toward safety and stability, repair processes quietly resume. This is not an overnight change. The body needs repeated confirmation that it is no longer under threat. By supporting stress regulation through simple daily habits, you reduce one of the most powerful invisible forces behind hair fall. Hair follicles respond gradually as cortisol levels normalize and the nervous system regains balance. Shedding often decreases first, followed by improved hair density and strength. This happens not because hair is being forced to grow, but because the internal environment finally allows it to. One of the biggest mistakes people make with natural strategies for hair health is inconsistency. The body does not respond to occasional efforts. It responds to repeated signals. Hair follicles, in particular, operate on long biological timelines. They do not react to what you did yesterday or even last week. They respond to what the body experiences consistently over weeks and months. This is why doing something powerful once in a while produces little to no visible change, while small daily habits can quietly create noticeable results over time. Hair grows in cycles, and each cycle is influenced by the internal environment during its early stages. If that environment is unstable, sometimes nourished, sometimes stressed, sometimes deficient, the follicle receives mixed signals. Mixed signals lead to weak output. Consistency creates clarity. When the body receives the same supportive message every day, it can confidently allocate resources toward growth instead of constantly adapting to new conditions. Drinking black tea with cloves once a day works because it becomes part of a predictable rhythm for the body. Predictability lowers physiological stress. When the body knows what to expect, hormonal fluctuations stabilize, digestion improves, and nutrient distribution becomes more efficient. Hair follicles benefit from this stability more than from any aggressive intervention. They thrive when the system is calm, well-fed, and reliable. Another critical aspect of consistency is dosage. More is not better. Many people assume that increasing frequency or quantity will accelerate results, but that often backfires. Excessive stimulation, even from natural substances, can stress the nervous system or interfere with mineral balance. A single daily cup sends a gentle, repeatable signal without overwhelming the system. This is how long-term biological change actually happens. Consistency also trains the gut. When the digestive system receives regular, moderate support, enzyme production and absorption efficiency improve. Irregular intake does not give the gut enough time to adapt. Over time, consistent habits improve how well the body extracts nutrients from food. This indirectly supports hair growth because follicles finally receive what they need without competition or shortage. There is also a psychological component. When a habit is simple and repeatable, adherence improves. Complex routines often fail not because they are ineffective, but because they are unsustainable. The body benefits only from what you can maintain. A habit that fits naturally into daily life is far more powerful than an elaborate plan followed for 2 weeks and abandoned. Hair health is a long game, and the strategy must match that reality. Another factor people underestimate is cellular memory. Cells respond to repeated exposure. When antioxidant support, circulation support, and stress regulation are provided daily, cells adjust their behavior. Inflammation markers decrease, hormonal signaling becomes smoother, and repair mechanisms activate more reliably. Hair follicles, once stuck in a defensive mode, slowly shift back into a growth, supportive state. Consistency also prevents the stop-start effect that worsens shedding. Sudden changes in routine can shock the system, especially in people already dealing with hair thinning. Maintaining steady habits reduces these fluctuations. The body prefers gradual, sustained improvement over abrupt shifts. When internal conditions remain supportive, hair cycles become more predictable and stable. What often surprises people is that the first sign of progress is not rapid growth, but reduced hair fall. This is a signal that the follicles feel safer holding on to hair instead of shedding it. That safety comes from consistent internal support, not from dramatic actions. Over time, hair texture improves, breakage decreases, and density gradually increases, all without forcing the process. The real power of this approach lies in patience aligned with repetition. Each day may feel insignificant, but the body adds these days together. Hair follicles respond not to motivation, but to environment. When the environment improves daily, the outcome eventually reflects that change. This is how natural strategies work when they are applied correctly, calmly, and consistently. Hair health is ultimately a reflection of how well the body is functioning as a whole. When people focus only on the hair itself, They miss the deeper message the body is sending. Hair is not essential for survival, so it becomes an indicator of internal balance. When nutrients are scarce, stress is high, digestion is weak, or hormones are unstable, the body redirects resources away from hair without hesitation. This is why addressing hair fall requires a systems-based approach rather than a single targeted fix. What makes simple daily strategies effective is that they work in harmony with the body's natural priorities. Instead of forcing growth, they remove the reasons growth was paused in the first place. When circulation improves, nutrients finally reach the follicles. When stress signals quiet down, hair cycles stabilize. When digestion becomes efficient, deficiencies begin to correct themselves without extreme measures. The body responds positively when it senses cooperation rather than pressure. Another critical point is that the body measures trends, not moments. One good day does not override weeks of imbalance, just as one bad day does not erase months of consistency. Hair follicles respond to patterns. When supportive signals are repeated daily, the body recalibrates its expectations. Growth becomes safe again. Repair becomes worthwhile again. This is when subtle but meaningful changes start to appear. There is also an important shift that happens mentally. When people stop chasing instant results and start supporting long-term health, stress around hair loss decreases. That reduction in stress alone can have a noticeable impact. Worrying about hair loss can worsen the very condition someone is trying to fix. A calm, structured approach sends a different signal to the nervous system, and that signal reaches every cell, including hair follicles. Hair improvement often shows up quietly. The scalp feels healthier. Excessive shedding slows. Hair strands feel stronger when handled. These changes may not seem dramatic at first, but they are signs that the internal environment is changing. Visible growth follows internal stability, not the other way around. This sequence is often misunderstood, leading people to abandon effective strategies too early. It's also important to recognize that no single habit works in isolation. Small actions compound when they support the same biological direction. Supporting circulation, hormone balance, digestion, and stress regulation together creates a multiplier effect. Each system reinforces the others. Hair follicles benefit because they sit at the intersection of all these systems. The most sustainable results come from habits that feel almost effortless. When something fits naturally into daily life, it has the power to influence the body long enough for real change to occur. Hair responds to what you do repeatedly, not occasionally. When support becomes routine, the body adapts, and hair follows that adaptation. Ultimately, hair growth is not something you demand from the body. It is something the body allows when conditions are right. When those conditions are consistently supported, hair no longer needs to struggle. It does what it has always been programmed to do quietly and steadily, reflecting the internal balance that made it possible.